What's happening? It's Len Davis with Pangiality Productions. Today is about December 21st, 2011. Tonight at 9:30 p.m. on the west coast of the United States is the official winter solstice, the shortest night of the year, and from here going forward, the days will get longer and longer again. Today's a very special day for me because my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Len Davis, crossed 10 million views today. Back in the middle of 1996, I posted my very first video, which was $250,000 in my pocket, and I still can't get a fucking cab. Now famous, for sure, with lots of thousands of comments talking about what it takes for a black man to get a cab in the city of Chicago. But 330 plus videos later, it's been about 3.5 years. I'm sorry, 5.5 years that I've been posting content to YouTube. I figured 10 million views divided by about 1,600, which is roughly 5.5 years worth of days, equaled about 6,000 or 6,500 views per day. So I started back then. The Pursuit of Happiness was coming out, and this movie about Chris Gardner, played by Will Smith. The first video I ever posted was before that movie ever became a big Hollywood hit. Chris Gardner in the back of a taxi talking about how he's got hundreds of thousands of dollars in his pocket and he can't get a fucking cab because he's a black man. And, you know, it's just evolved. Over the years, some of the themes have been... I've always gone with love and joy, music and live performance, food and culture and politics and controversy. I got a couple videos with multiple millions on them in terms of views. One is the monkeys in my lap looking into my camera. The other one is of a six-fingered Hindu priest. But it's really all over the spectrum. My YouTube channel has always been a mix of my own personal interests, stuff from travel and meals I'm having and people I encounter, and just spontaneous interviews with strangers on the street. That right there is just a small portion of the collection of tapes I've collected. I bought my first video camera on like September 2nd, 1999. I was about to travel around the United States with my main man, Mel Rock, Craig Melzer, my closest friend from childhood, from pre-kindergarten. And we were going to travel around the United States the last 100 days of the millennium, talking to Americans about who they were and what their ideas about where they lived and the state of our nation and our planet. And we were cruising in a green Dodge minivan. We went 18,000 miles from Boston to Seattle to San Diego to Miami to Boston, the last 100 days of the millennium. And the van was just all pimped out where we could stay in it, we could make meals, whatever. And we would pull up in the plaza downtown all across America, and we'd take out a bridge table and fire up the Coleman stove with a couple folding chairs and make a meal with extra food and invite strangers to come stay with us. And I bought my first video camera days before that trip, and traveling around the country talking to people about the turn of the millennium, doing those spontaneous interviews is really the foundation for what my business, Pangiality Productions, became, because it was that using a video camera to tell stories and to engage people and ideas and to show things that interested me and share them with the world. That was in '99. In the year 2000, I got the job working for City 2000, which was the acronym for Chicago in the year 2000, a project to document life in the city, which was funded by a big philanthropist, and he hired the equivalent of about 12 or 13 full-time photographers and then a couple of hundred people plugged in on a freelance basis, traveling the streets of Chicago over the year 2000. He had this vision that this time capsule would be a gift to the people, and it's now this massive archive of millions of images that's housed at the University of Illinois at Chicago. My man John Lowenstein from Brookline was one of those 12 full-time photographers, and he pulled me in, and being 2000, that was sort of the front end of the digital revolution in movie making and photography. And they hadn't, you know, it was a project about photography. They hadn't really articulated what the role of video in that project would be. And they took a look at some of the stories I'd collected on that US tour I was just talking about, and they were just kind of amazed at my ability to really just engage strangers and talking about who they were and what their ideas were. And so they hired me on the spot. They gave me 5 days to start at $400 a day, which was by far at that time the most money I'd ever made. And then they just kept extending my time. One of the first videos that I walked in the door with, you know, there was this studio in Chicago. It was like the headquarters of the project, and they're just photographers coming and going, and journalists and all these people. And they had sent me out on the streets to just go collect these interviews. And that interview with Chris Gardner, talking about having a quarter million dollars in my pocket and I still can't get a fucking cab. You know what that means? It means you're a nigger no matter how much money you got. You're a nigger, and you know, just this going off about how he was a rich man and a rich black man. He still couldn't get a taxi because he was black. It was a trip. So I sat on all this footage, you know, just sort of envisioning how video would be used online. One of the first ways my video was ever used online was by The Stranger, the crazy free weekly here in Seattle. I had come and visited Seattle and had gone down to this celebration that was like Mardi Gras downtown, and it was just insane. It was just a crazy story. But to make a long story short, I did all these interviews with strangers about, you know, young teenage women. Why would you possibly want to show your tits to all these strangers? And young drunken kids about fighting and what are you doing down here? And The Stranger, I had a friend who worked there, and they, way ahead of the curve, took these videos, series of interviews, and transcribed them and put them as a print article in their newspaper, but then they attached these little video clips, which is really the front end of online video, you know, when that was, you know, 10 years later. That's part of the cool thing about this story, is how 11 years from that time, I guess 12 years, just the evolution of online video, about the rise of YouTube and the ease with which we can now share videos, is a trip. So it's a long-winded story, but I'm kind of excited. It's 10 million views today. I thought if you take, yeah, I was already telling you about how that would average about 6,500 views, but made it big with the ladybug sex story, which was we had been traveling around the country in that green minivan, and we were at a rest stop in Indiana, and I just randomly, with my new video camera, recorded these two ladybugs having sex on my hand, and I posted that clip years later on YouTube. And my man Ted Kartzman, who had some friend who worked at YouTube, he's like, you gotta check out my man Len Davis's YouTube channel. He's got all this sick shit from around the world. And I'm down in Tulum, Mexico shortly after, and I come off of vacation. I'm checking my email. This is back in whenever, 2006. And I've got 3,000 emails in my Yahoo inbox. And I'm just thinking, oh, my shit got hacked and it's over. I'm going to have a new email address. But it turned out that YouTube had picked up that ladybug sex video and put it on the front page of YouTube, which is a trip. So this was way back, you know, long before there were branded channels and all these kind of movie studios and individual corporations having their channel. And so there was the opportunity at that point for a clip like that to really make it to the front page, which is not likely to happen anymore. And that video just blew up. It turned out that it was the #1 most watched video in the world for like 36 hours. I'm not going to bore you by going into my filing cabinet here and showing you the screen grab, but there was some video website back in the day called like VidMeter, and it would show all the viral videos around the world and just show what had the most views for the day. And Ladybug Sex, my video, was the #1 video in the world for a day, which was crazy. So when that happened, I got a call from the Seattle Times did a story, the Seattle PI, the Post-Intelligencer, did a story. I did interviews on the radio, and it was just a trip. But that sort of catapulted my channel into just a global following, and now I've got a couple thousand subscribers, and today 10 million views. Just a trip. I mean, I've got playlists from my travels in China, India, Mexico, live performance stuff, food, politics, all kinds of stuff. So if you're already a subscriber and part of the community who's been enjoying and appreciating my videos for years, much love. Thanks for sticking in there and supporting me over the years. And if you're just stumbling across this video or you haven't yet become familiar, I encourage you to dig deep. There's a lot of great stuff there. If you haven't yet subscribed on YouTube, feel free, and that way you can just kind of follow when I'm adding new stuff. Become a fan on Facebook at facebook.com/PangialityProductions. It's a trip because what you see in this YouTube channel is really a collection of just my sort of personal interests and funky stuff. I do put up work that I'm producing, but 12 years after buying that first video camera, I now have a production company and I'm a filmmaker doing a lot more serious stuff and getting paid. And as my business kind of grew, it resulted in doing a lot less of this spontaneous stuff and a lot more intentional. As I began spending more of my time behind a camera and at the computer editing, the less interest I had in pursuing, you know, stuff that was just at the time interesting. You can imagine. But pretty exciting. 10 million views today, 5.5 years into it. Become a fan, dig deep, check the flicks. There's been a number of videos that have been pulled from my channel by YouTube for one reason or another, because they violated the terms of use, because they had somebody who was partially naked in it, or there was some music that I used, or a performance that I shot that was like a professional license, you know, artist from a major label, and they just automatically squashed it. But overall, it's been a trippy ride. I'm looking forward to having an event at the Northwest Film Forum in the coming months here, which is kind of a indie film center here in the city of Seattle that supports artists, but also is a theater and shows a lot of stuff. And just talking through a bunch of these stories, the people who I've connected with through the comments, and people correcting, you know, my translation of various languages and telling me that that's them in the video, or that video is the only memory that exists of something that was destroyed or you know, lost or stolen, leading to all kinds of wacky stuff. So 11 minutes talking about 10 million views. If you stuck around this long, it means you're feeling it, and I'm happy you're enjoying the content and the media that I'm producing, the videos that I'm putting up on my channel. Much love to you. Stay fresh. My website is pangiality.com for my business, and the YouTube channel that I've been talking about is youtube.com/LenDavis. So stay fresh and get in touch if you're interested in learning more. Dig deep in the collection, and I think you'll find probably way more time than you intended to be spending. Stuff that's inspiring and educational, hilarious, ironic, ridiculous, stuff that'll gross you out, but also make you laugh and make you want to share it. So it's the power of online video, and that's what 5.5 years worth of using a video camera to tell stories and sort of show what this world is like through my lens. My name is Len. Stay fresh. Peace.